Your body is the temple. You have heard it so often that it has become a compliment, a warm saying, a bit of spiritual courtesy. And I must tell you at the outset, it is no compliment at all. It is an assignment. A temple is not valuable because its stones are strong. It is sacred because it houses a presence that governs it. The temple is kept not by motion, not by personal management, not by your human cleverness, but by the government of the presence that abides. Therefore, when I say your body is the temple, I am turning you from pride to discipline. I am saying, this body must be taught stillness so that presence may govern. Be still and know I am God. Be still and know I am God. And listen to me now. This lesson is not for the curious. Do not play with it. Do not discuss it. Do not pass it on until you yourself have made it living in your experience and can say, I know because I have seen the fruit. I am speaking to you as to students being entrusted with a temple, and I must ask for your fidelity. This is a practice to be lived, not a subject to be argued. In the wrong spirit, it becomes just another spiritual toy. In the right spirit, it becomes the doorway to government from within. So I must say to you, and I mean it, do not undertake to teach this to anyone. Do not hand it around until your own temple has responded, until you can feel that quiet inner nod that says, I will never leave you nor forsake you. And you have the first proofs that stillness invites governance. Be still and know I am God. Now, isn't your body your patient? Isn't your body your student? You have thought of patients as other people, but tell me, where will you first learn fidelity, but with the flesh and nerves that answer to your name? If a teacher storms at a child, the child learns to resist. If a physician fights his own patient, the patient learns to fear. If you fight your body, if you scold it, if you whip it into behavior, you will train it to resist. If you consent to teach it receptivity, quietly, without aggression, you will train it to receive. The temple must be taught how to yield. At first, I warn you, you may not enjoy this. It will seem like a slowing down when you want speed, a quiet when you want answers. The nerves will protest. The mind will chatter. The body will fidget and tell you there are more important errands. Good. Expect it. That is the sound of a student who has not yet learned the alphabet, speaking back to the teacher. Do not argue with it. Do not force it. Do not flatter it. Say, gently but with authority, be still and know I am God. And prepare yourself for a season of training. We are not after improvement by effort. We are after government by presence. And the guiding question that must stay before you day after day is this: how shall we train this body, this temple, to become receptive to divine government? We will answer that question step by step, but the entrance is here. Accept that your body is the temple, and that temple must be taught stillness so presence may govern. Be still and know I am God. Now then, before you ever attempt to still a nerve or quiet a breath, you must accept a fact that will offend your pride for a moment and then save you years of anxious failure. There are two of you. For the purpose of this work, hear it exactly as I say it. There is you with a name, with a history, with habits and fears and opinions, what I will call the person. And there is I, the indwelling presence, the I that I am, the governor, the life, the law, the one that is. If you will not make this distinction, you will go on trying to run a temple with a custodian's broom. The person can sweep, it can keep watch, it can lock the door at night. It cannot govern. The I alone governs. Now, this is not philosophy for its own sake. This is the working rule. The personal sense, the named self, cannot successfully govern the body. It can supervise, observe, consent, but it cannot command life. When the person tries to command, it uses willpower. When it uses willpower, the body is taught resistance. Have you not noticed? When you strain, the jaw clenches, the shoulders lift, the breath grows shallow, the heart begins to guard itself. The more you try to make yourself calm, the more the nerves learn to protect against you. They do not feel safe. They feel besieged. And a besieged temple will not house a king. Put up thy sword. Be still and know I am God. Divine government is not a theory, not a slogan to be pinned on a wall. It is the felt authority of the I within that, when permitted, stills fear without battle. It quiets the organs because it is their life. It speaks to the chest, and the chest listens. It speaks to the belly, and the belly yields. It speaks to the mind, and the mind falls silent. Not from exhaustion, but from reverence. Under that government, the claims, the appearances that would name themselves power, lose their voice. You will find that what shouted becomes a whisper, and what threatened dissolves, not because a greater force overcame it, but because the I revealed its nothingness. Be still and know I am God. Not you the person knowing about God. You the person consenting to the I that is God as the governor of this temple. So the practice begins precisely here. Stop trying to govern the temple as a person. Assume your rightful role as witness, custodian, consenter, and let the I within assume the throne. You will supervise the lesson, yes. You will not drive it. You will observe the body, yes. You will not argue with it. You will say, be still, but you will say it as a herald of sovereignty, not as a policeman on the corner. And because this body has been for years trained in tension, schooled in reaction, practiced in clutch and brace and defend, it will require re-education, daily, patient, exact. Not a day on, a week off, not a burst of enthusiasm and then forgetfulness, but a quiet, persistent return. Be still and know I am God. Return until the person remembers its place, and the temple remembers its king. Now then, before any instruction of the temple begins, before you presume to attempt healing work for yourself or anyone, there is a law you must accept, and you must establish it in consciousness. Put up thy sword. Never approach the body as an enemy to be conquered. Never approach a symptom as a foe to be beaten down. In this work, the slightest aggression closes the temple door. And I mean the slightest. The tone of voice with which you speak to your own flesh, the hurried command to breathe, the scolding of a nerve that trembles. If you fight the body, you train it to resist. If you cease aggression, you train it to receive. Be still and know I am God. Let me unmask for you the kinds of violence that hide under spiritual language. Forcing posture, chin up, shoulders back, as if you could intimidate peace into appearing. Forcing breath, 10 deep breaths hammered into a chest that already feels besieged. Fighting symptoms, I will not allow this pain, as if volume of will were power. Fighting thoughts, I must stop thinking, as if mind were a dog to be muzzled. All of this is sword work, and the body, intelligent as it is, hears the clang of it and prepares for siege. The jaw sets, the diaphragm braces, the heart guards itself. A besieged temple will not house a king. Put up thy sword. Do not misunderstand me. There is a difference between correction and aggression, between instruction and battle. We do not let the body run wild. We educate it. We do not shout it down. We speak to it as to a beloved child who has been frightened. You will correct, yes, but you will correct by gentle, consistent direction. Never by blow, never by threat. Be still, you will say. Not with gritted teeth, not with a fist in the breath, but as a herald announcing the rightful governor. Be still and know I am God. You are not the enforcer on the corner. You are the custodian opening the door so that authority may enter. The body learns by tone. If the tone bears peace, it yields. If the tone bears fear, it resists. And I can hear your objection. Will this not make me passive, negligent, indifferent to necessary action? No. Stillness is not negligence. It is the highest alertness. It is the alertness that refuses to be stampeded by appearances, that refuses to grant them power. It is the readiness to be governed by what is deeper than thought, deeper than impulse, deeper than the old habit of fight. When you put up the sword, you do not abandon the field. You lay down the weapon that never worked, and you stand as a beholder until the inner eye speaks. Stand still, not as stone, but as sentinel. Be still and know I am God, not as a slogan, but as the living posture of the temple awaiting its governor. Only then can the method begin. Only then can the nerves believe they are safe enough to respond to the word. Only then can the breath trust that it will not be forced. Only then can the organs stop guarding and start listening. When the sword is sheathed, the temple softens. When the temple softens, it can be taught. And so we will proceed to instruction, not to battle, not to manipulation, but to the gradual education of this body into stillness, that presence may govern. Put up thy sword. Be still, and know I am God. Now then, close the door. I mean that literally. This is not for display. This is not worship in public. This is the inner sanctuary. If you need a chair, take a chair. If it is a cushion, take a cushion. If it is the edge of the bed before dawn, take that. But close the door, and keep the purpose of it secret. We are not performing for any eye. We are consenting to be governed. Put up thy sword at the threshold and enter as custodian, not conqueror. The atmosphere must say to the nerves, there is no danger here. Now I will ask you to assume, for the purpose of this work, that you are above and within at once, as if you were seated just above the crown, looking gently down into the head as into a holy chamber. There is no probing, no prying. There is simply the beholder's gaze and the word. Begin with the scalp. Be still. The forehead. Release the furrow. Let the thought that it must think relax. Be still. The temples, those faithful guardians that have labored too long. Be still. The eyes. Do not stare them into quiet. Close them or lower them as you will, and bid the lids, the sockets, the muscles behind the eyes, the optic nerves themselves. Be still and know I am God. Come now to the jaw. Do not wrench it loose, you are not cracking a nut. You are speaking to a child that has slept with fists clenched. Be still. The tongue. Yes, the tongue that argues silently, that prepares answers. Lay it down from the roof of the mouth. Be still. The cheeks, the ears, the back of the head where memories collect. All of it under the same gentle authority. Be still and know I am God. At first, and I must tell you this so you do not mistake the sign, thoughts will wander. The mind will chatter. There may be a restlessness, even an irritation that says, "This is a waste." Good. That is not failure. That is the sound of an untrained student discovering that recess is over. Do not argue with it. Do not scold it. Do not rush. Return to the word. Be still. If a picture appears, do not cultivate it. We are not after imagery. We are after the descent of quiet. Linger until you feel, and you will feel it, a slight softening, a small yielding. The brow unknits of itself, the eyes float in their bowls, the jaw hangs by its own weight. That is the sign the nerves have heard, no danger, and have consented to the word. Take your time. If it takes a minute before the scalp yields, give it the minute. If today the eyes yield and the jaw refuses, leave the jaw unargued and return tomorrow. Do not hurry this meditation. The purpose is not to conquer a segment. The purpose is to let the whole head learn the tone of safety. Be still and know I am God. When the head yields even slightly, oh, you will notice it, because a quiet begins to pool behind the eyes, and the breath, without your asking, drops to a lower room. Then the rest of the body becomes teachable. You will find the shoulders listening, the chest waiting, the abdomen willing to be addressed. But we do not run ahead. We move as a priest moves in a sanctuary, one step, then another, under orders. Today it is the head and the nerves, teaching them by tone, by patience, by non-aggression, that stillness is safe and therefore possible. From this first yielding, the government may extend. Be still and know I am God. Now then, let us allow that quiet that is pooled behind the eyes to flow downward. Do not hurry it. Do not push it. As if you were seated gently above, looking down through the neck into the slope of both shoulders, see where, for years, responsibility has been stored. The yoke of yesterday's decisions, tomorrow's worries, the fear of disappointing someone, the habit of taking hold. Feel where they have made their home, right there at the crest where neck meets shoulder, between the blades, along the upper back. Do not accuse it. Do not say, "Why are you so tight?" Speak as a custodian opening the door for the governor. Be still and know I am God. Look down into the right shoulder as if it were hollow, all the way to the socket. Be still. The left the same. Be still. Move with your inner eye between the shoulder blades, those faithful wings that have learned to fold under load. Be still. Along the collarbones, which have leaned forward to carry the world. Be still. Across the upper back, where the ribs tether and the traps have tried to be guardians. Be still and know I am God. You are not pressing them down. You are not dragging a burden off. You are removing the command to brace. You are giving permission to be governed. Be still. Now then, we will address the arms as if they were two separate students, because they are. Right arm first. Look down through the bicep. Be still. The elbow, so eager to lock and defend. Be still. The forearm, those ropey strands that hold tools, pens, steering wheels. Be still. The wrist, so often corseted by hurry. Be still. The hand, palm, back, heel of the hand. Be still. Each finger, one by one. The thumb that dominates. The index that points. The middle that grasps. The ring that remembers. The little that follows. Be still and know I am God. Left arm now. The bicep. Be still. The elbow. Be still. The forearm. Be still. The wrist. Be still. The hand, open it as a cup, not to take, to receive. Be still. The fingers, one by one. Be still and know I am God. Do you notice it? The slightest warmth, a soft tingling as circulation is permitted to flow without your managing it. As breath settles of itself a floor lower. As the mind's compulsion to micromanage begins to loosen its grip. This is micro-receptivity. The moment any member of the temple can be bid to be still, it becomes receptive to a government you are not personally voicing. You are not hypnotizing a muscle. You are withdrawing personal control so that I may govern my temple. Be still. I must ask you to make this practical. Several times during the day, do not wait for a crisis. Step aside for 5 minutes. In an office chair, in a hallway, standing if you must. Return to the shoulders and arms only. Announce safety. Put up thy sword. Then quietly move, right shoulder, left shoulder, blades, biceps, elbows, forearms, wrists, hands, fingers. Be still and know I am God. Do not argue with whatever you find. 5 minutes, often. This is how a body that has carried the world learns to carry presence. And now, as these outer limbs quiet, you will notice a door opening inward. With the shoulders no longer bracing and the arms no longer prepared to seize control. The deeper centers, the heart, the chest, the diaphragm, become accessible without strain. We do not force our way. We are invited. Be still and know I am God. Now then, we stand at the altar. Do not hurry past this. The heart area is not a theater for emotions. It is the sanctuary where presence is felt. We are not here to produce feelings or to squeeze tears out of a stone. We are here to withdraw personal management so that I may govern my temple. So we bring the word, the same word, but with a tenderness that is authority without pressure. Be still and know I am God. Let your inner gaze rest across the upper chest, as if laying a cloth upon an altar, over the sternum, between the ribs, beneath the collarbones. No prying, no search for a special sensation. Merely the word, given as safety. Be still. The ribs themselves, hinged like quiet doors. Be still. The breastbone, keeper of the front gate. Be still. The space behind the breastbone, where the heart beats out of faithfulness, not out of fear. Be still, and know I am God. Now the diaphragm. I must warn you, do not take the breath in hand. Do not seize it. Do not count it. That is sword work, and we have put up our sword. Instead, address the diaphragm as you would a faithful servant that has learned to brace at every sound. Be still. The wide belt of muscle that has tried to hold the world together. Be still. The solar plexus with its bright cluster of alarms. Be still. You are not trying to slow the breath. You are announcing that there is no danger. And at that announcement, the breath, left to itself, will discover a lower room and choose it. Be still and know I am God. You may meet here what you have called anxiety, a startled flutter, a guarding across the chest, a message that says, prepare to fight or run. Do not argue. Do not bargain. Do not lace the chest in armor. Acknowledge its presence and refuse it authority by withholding your fear. Return to the word. Be still. Again, be still. You will feel, sometimes suddenly, sometimes like an afternoon tide, a softening under the sternum, a willingness of the diaphragm to stop holding the sky. That is the altar ceasing its own sacrifice in order to receive. In time, and I say in time because you must earn this by faithfulness, you will notice a holy reversal. At first you are addressing, be still, be still. Later, without your summoning, the same command will rise within the chest itself, not from thought, not from will, but as if the altar, now awake, speaks to the temple. Be still and know I am God. And with it may come another word, unforced, unmistakable. I will never leave you nor forsake you. Not a charm, not a recitation, but companionship felt. Do not clutch at it. Bow inwardly and let it be. Remain here a few breaths, but remember, you are not keeping the rhythm. You are keeping the reverence. The chest striving ceases. The altar receives. From this quiet, government extends naturally. And now, because the gate is peaceful, we are permitted to go deeper, down beyond the altar into the abdomen and lower back, where survival has stored its claims and where they shout loudest. We go there next, not to battle, but to teach silence without fear. Be still and know I am God. Now then, we go below the altar. And I must ask you to go slowly, for here the loudest voices have learned to live. We are not going in as inspectors with clipboards. We are entering as custodians, with one word and one tone. Put up thy sword. Be still, and know I am God. Let your inner gaze move across the broad field of the abdomen as if it were a quiet bowl. Do not press it down. Lay the word upon the skin and through to the depths. The belly wall that clutches, be still. The navel region that remembers old alarms, be still. The stomach, faithful worker often blamed for the mind's worries, be still. The liver to the right, the spleen to the left, be still. The pancreas, hidden, diligent, be still. The great loops of the intestines, that restless caravan, be still and know I am God. Deeper yet, behind, the kidneys tucked against the back, be still. The wide belt of the lower back where you have braced to earn, to defend, to endure, be still. The lumbar muscles that have been night guards without relief, be still. The psoas, those long inner sentries, Be still. Across the sacral ridge without pressing into the hips. Be still and know I am God. Now you will notice, perhaps at once, perhaps after patient minutes, that here the claims come forward as if to be consulted. A knot that insists it is a verdict. A churning that says, I have the final word. A report you have heard, ulcer, colitis, reflux, cramps. A label you have feared, weak back, sciatica, lumbago. Do not dramatize, do not bargain, do not fight. We do not consult a symptom as an authority. We acknowledge its appearance and withdraw from it the only thing that ever gave it voice, our fear and our belief in its power. Be still. Again, be still. There is no power in form or effect. All power is in the I that I am. The very nothingness of the claim, once unmasked, precludes the necessity for anything to be done to it. In the light of quiet government, it dissolves into its native nothingness. You will be tempted to test, is it gone yet? That is aggression in friendly clothes. Do not test. Do not scan the belly for trouble like a searchlight. Stand as witness, not as warden. Return the word. Be still and know I am God. The sign of progress here is not fireworks. It is the end of argument. Less inner debate with sensations. Less leaning forward to protect. Less compulsion to patrol for problems. A simple, unembellished willingness to be quiet and let I govern. Sometimes the belly becomes warm. Sometimes it grows spacious like a soft, dark room. Sometimes the lower back feels as if it is breathing you. Take these not as trophies, but as evidence that the temple has ceased bracing and has begun to receive. Remain long enough for the belt of the lower back to loosen of itself, for the abdomen to stop volunteering new messages. When the center learns silence, without fear and without struggle, the throne is being established. From this quiet, the government extends naturally upward along the spine and outward through the frame. And because the center is now safe, we are permitted to include what has waited at the edges, the spine entire, the hips, the legs, and the feet, that the temple may be receptive from crown to sole. But not with hurry, with the same word, the same tone. Be still and know I am God. Now then, from this quiet center, we take up the spine as if it were a hollow staff rising through the temple. Do not probe, do not push. Seat yourself, as before, slightly above, and let your gaze descend within the column, slow as oil, steady as prayer. At the base of the skull, where the cord meets the brain, be still. The neck, those faithful links that have turned at every call, be still. One by one, the vertebrae of the upper back, between the shoulder blades where duty has perched, be still. Down the mid-back, where the ribs tether and the breath has tugged, be still. Into the lumbar, that wide hinge we have just taught to trust, be still and know I am God. Across the sacrum, into the tailbone, the end of the staff, be still. You are not straightening the spine like a ruler. You are withdrawing the order to brace. Put up thy sword. Announce safety. Be still. Now the hips and the bowl of the pelvis. And I must ask for tenderness and secrecy here. The temple includes what people hide, and it must be governed too, not exposed, not handled, governed. The great sockets where thigh meets pelvis, be still. The gluteal muscles, quick to clench, be still. The inner basin, the pelvic floor, those faithful gates that have stood guard for years. Be still and know I am God. The organs within, do not pry, do not name, only the word, given as sanctity. Be still. There is no intrusion here, only the recognition that the whole temple belongs to I, and therefore no corner is left to fear or to shame. Be still. Let us move now as if pouring quiet down 2 pillars. Right thigh from hip to knee, be still. Left thigh, be still. The knees so ready to lock or flee, be still. The calves, coiled springs, be still. The shins, the ankles with their restless swivels, be still. The tops of the feet, the arches, the heels, be still. Each toe, one by one. Big toe that leads, second that steadies, third that follows, fourth that learns, little that accompanies. Be still and know I am God. Wait until a heaviness worthy of the word comes upon the legs. Not collapse, not stupor, but a clean weight that says, the ground is safe. Agitation gives way to gravity. The temple stands under government. Do you notice what begins to change? In walking, steps take their cue from the center instead of from hurry. The foot meets the earth after an inner yes, not as a lunge. In sitting, the spine rests on its staff. The shoulders do not rush ahead of the mind to answer the room. In speaking, the tongue obeys the pause, and words come from a quieter floor. Reactions slow down, not into dullness, into obedience. The body ceases to volunteer for alarms. It no longer runs out the door to drag the mind behind it. Presence governs, and the servant waits. Make this practical. Several times during the day, at the sink, between calls, in a corridor, take a 5-minute return. Do not try to do the whole temple. Choose one region and restore it. Only the spine. Be still and know I am God. Only the hips. Be still. Only the knees and ankles. Be still. Sheathe the sword, give the word, and leave it. 5 minutes, many times. These short returns sew the long cloth of peace. And now hear me. If you stop here, you will call this relaxation, a fine hygiene for nerves. No, this is the outer court. Stillness is not the goal. It is the throne brought into place. When the whole body can be bid to be still, the temple becomes receptive from head to foot to the government of presence. Then, and only then, does I take the seat openly, and healing ceases to be a project and becomes the activity of the governor. We will speak of that. For now, keep the watch. Be still and know I am God. Now then, let me draw the line so that you cannot mistake it. Relaxation is a human technique. It is a thing you do to your muscles, to your breath, to your schedule. It has its place in hygiene, in rest, in the relief of fatigue. Stillness, as we speak it here, is not that. Stillness is the surrender of the temple to government. It is the throne brought into place and the king taking his seat. Relaxation empties a room. Stillness opens a gate. Relaxation may make you drowsy. Stillness makes you alert without tension. Relaxation is something the person can manipulate and therefore can boast in. Stillness is what happens when the person consents to be silent and I am takes over. Here is the sign that you have crossed the threshold. You will find that decisions begin to arise without your strain. You were about to speak, some quick defense, some clever answer, and the word comes up from within, unforced, unmistakable. Be still. And you do not speak. And for once the silence is not awkward, but sovereign. You were about to push the shoulder down. Instead, you feel, from within the body, a small rearrangement, a soft dropping of the blade, the neck lengthening by itself, the breath choosing a lower room. And you know, not as a thought, but as an event, I is functioning, although outwardly it would appear to be me. You will discover adjustments occurring in posture, in tone, in appetite even, not because you manage them, but because the governor governs the temple from within. You will say less, and it will have more weight. You will move less, and it will be in season. Calm will not be an achievement. It will be a government. And this is the hallmark, and I must mark it for you plainly. Instead of you continually addressing the temple, be still, be still, be still. You will hear yourself being addressed. The inner voice, not the chatter of thought, not the old conscience that scolds, but the presence that assures, will say, "Peace, be still." And it will carry authority. It will say, "Not now," and restraint will be easy. It will say, "Now," and obedience will be joy. It will say, "Leave that alone," and you will. It will say, "I am with you," and fear will have no argument left. Until this begins, continue the practice as instruction. When this begins, continue the practice as worship. Be still and know, I am God. Now I must warn you against the quickest way to lose it. The moment you seek stillness to get something, you have reintroduced the person and its bargaining, and you have dethroned the governor. Do not use God for a purpose. Do not sit down to obtain a healing, to secure a solution, to influence an interview. Put up thy sword even against your goals. Seek only to abide. Let the fruit appear as it must. The very nothingness of the claim, once realized, precludes the necessity for any doing about it. All power is in the I that I am. Be still and know, I am God. And notice the ethical outflow, because it is the only atmosphere in which true healing work can be entrusted to you. A governed temple becomes less aggressive and less defensive. You will not argue people into truth. You will not make speeches at conditions. Your tone changes. Put up thy sword becomes not a rule you remember, but the climate you carry. You do not grant power to appearances. You do not refuse action when action is given you from within, but you never fight. You behold, you consent, you let. And healings, when they occur, will not feel like victories won. They will feel like weather clearing. Now, to keep this from remaining beautiful theory, there must be a timetable and there must be discipline. You cannot visit this once a week and hope for government. Truth becomes power only as it is practiced until it becomes consciousness. In our next step, I will ask of you specific hours, minimum months, and the proof you must look for, not in words, in demonstration. For now, accept this. Stillness is not the end of effort. It is the end of personal effort and the beginning of divine government. Keep the watch. Be still and know I am God. Now then, we must make this practical in the only way that will keep it from becoming a lovely sentiment. Put it on the calendar. This is not accomplished in a weekend. This is not for the curious. It will take you not less than 3 to 4 months to successfully accomplish this meditation so that the body ceases to be a project and becomes a student, trained, responsive, willing. During that period, you will not experiment. You will practice. You will not ask for results. You will present yourself. You will not try it when convenient. You will set a time and keep it. Be still and know I am God. I must ask you for a daily period, long enough to gather the whole temple under one word. If you can, 1 full hour at dawn before the day makes demands. If you can, another period at evening, 30 minutes to an hour, to restore government before sleep. Never less than 1 to 2 hours per day during this training, even if you divide it into 2 periods. If you cannot yet do that, then 45 minutes in the morning you will not break, and 20 minutes in the late day you will not surrender. And I insist on brief returns. 5 minutes, several times, wherever you are, at a desk, in a parked car, standing in a corridor. Do not wait for trouble. Call the body to class and say only, "Put up thy sword, be still, and know I am God." Consistency matters more than intensity. A steady drip hollows stone. A weekly flood leaves silt and no change. You will say, "I don't have time." No, what you mean is, the day already governs you through nerves and fear, and you dare not refuse its whip. Hear me. Every untrained hour will cost you 2 in reaction, in restlessness, in repair. The body that has not been brought under government will exact its fee. In sleep broken, in temper shortened, in tasks done twice. Choose your governor. Either you reclaim the day in secret, or the day will continue to claim you in public. Be still and know I am God. How shall you know it is working? By demonstration. Not by beliefs you can recite, but by events you cannot deny. First, small proofs. Sleep comes easier. The breath finds a lower room without your counting. Irritability passes like a cloud instead of becoming climate. A minor discomfort appears, and you do not scold it, and it subsides without drama. Then larger. The old nod in the shoulder that has been your signature stops volunteering. Digestion that used to report every disturbance grows quiet. A habit of hurry breaks without an argument. After, the claims that used to frighten you arrive with less authority. You will not battle them. You will refuse them jurisdiction. You will abide until the weather clears. Do not seek to perform. Let I perform. Let appearances dissolve in the light of government. The very nothingness of the claim, once realized, precludes any doing about it. Now, a caution I will not soften. Do not pass this on while it is still letter. Do not teach it, do not describe it, do not make a show of it. If this gets into the wrong hands, if it is used to get, to manage, to impress, it would be better that it had never been spoken. I must ask you not to pass on to anyone until you yourself have completely mastered this meditation. Not perfectly, but to the point that instead of you addressing, you are being addressed. That the inner "be still" rises of itself and governs you in traffic as surely as in the chair. Hold to the schedule. Keep the secrecy. Live through the 3 to 4 months as a vow and look only for the quiet that proves government. From that quiet, we come now to the promise. Healing without battle, not by assaulting appearance, but by abiding until its supposed power melts into nothingness under the reign of I. Be still and know I am God. Now then, we come to the point toward which all this discipline has been moving, and I must ask you to hear me as if your work depended upon it, because it does. Never undertake healing work until you have established yourself in non-aggression. Put up thy sword. We are flooded with claims, germs, viruses, inflammations, growths, blood numbers, pain reports, alarming names strung together with hyphens, and yet a claim is not a law. A claim is an appearance asking for your fear to make it powerful. Refuse it. Do not fight a germ. Do not wrestle a diagnosis. Do not argue with a sensation. Withdraw the only weapon it has, your belief that it can govern, and return to stillness. Be still and know I am God. When a symptom presents, an ache rising in the temple, a tightening in the chest, a churn in the abdomen, a flutter in the nerves, you will not lunge for remedies of thought. You will not lecture it with quotations. You will take your seat above the temple as we have practiced, and you will offer only the word that establishes safety. Be still. To the region itself, as if it were your student, be still. And to the belief that any form can govern you, a belief that comes dressed in statistics and memories and other people's stories, you will say with quiet authority, "Get thee behind me." Not to the body, to the belief in power apart from I. Then you will abide. No mental wrestling, no scanning for change every 10 seconds, no bargaining. Put up thy sword. Be still and know I am God. Do not mistake this for denial. We are not pretending there is nothing to see. We are discerning that what is seen has no power. Form has no power. Effect has no power. There is no power in a germ or in a picture or in a number on a page. All power is in the I that I am. The very nothingness of the claim, once realized, precludes the necessity for any God to do anything to it. In the light of government, appearance dissolves into its native nothingness. What occurs? Often, a quieting. Warmth appears where there was guarding. The breath finds a lower room of its own. A knot loosens without being pulled. Sometimes quickly, like weather changing in an hour. Sometimes slowly, as if a tide withdraws and you notice only afterward that the shore is dry. Either way, the event is not your doing. You did not battle. You stood still and allowed I to be government in my temple. If an outer step is given you from within, a call to rest, a food to refuse, a walk to take, you will take it without fear and without argument, not as cause, but as obedience. If no step is given, you will not invent one. You will abide until the weather clears. This, then, is healing without battle. The refusal to grant power to appearance, the sheathing of all inner weapons, and the enthronement of stillness as government. The body is the temple not because it is strong, but because it can be taught to be still enough to be governed. Keep this work private. Keep it secret. Practice until the word arises of itself and the temple maintains itself from within. Let the world be noisy with claims. You will be quiet with law. Be still and know I am God. Now then, I must ask you for something that may be harder than the hours. Keep the temple secret. Do your worship in secret. Do not make this a badge. Do not announce a practice or offer a performance of holiness. Keep the purpose of it hidden so that your sincerity may have weight with your own soul. Let the outer life show its fruit. Calmer step, gentler tone, healed reactions, without announcement. If this gets into the wrong hands, if it is used to get or to impress, it would be better that it had never been said. Hold it as covenant, not as conversation. Be still and know I am God. Review it once more and seal it. There are two of you for the sake of this training, the person who yields and the I that governs. The person does not command God, the person consents to be governed. Non-aggression first, always. Put up thy sword before you attempt any healing, before you correct a body, before you answer a provocation. Stillness is learned through instruction, not force. Head and nerves, be still. Shoulders and arms, be still. Heart and diaphragm, be still. Abdomen and lower back, be still. Spine, hips, legs, and feet, be still and know I am God. You do this daily, 1 hour if you can at dawn, another in the evening if you can, otherwise a faithful minimum, and several 5-minute returns threaded through the day. You do it for months, not less than 3 to 4, until instead of you addressing, you are being addressed and government is evident. This is the method. Simple, strict, and secret. Now to the private accounting. Do not make reports to the world. Keep a small, hidden record for your own honesty before God. Note the day and the hour when the peace of God descended, not as a mood, but as government. Write only a line. Silence established. Breath found a lower room. Note when a claim lost its voice without battle. The not ceased volunteering. Fear arrived and had no authority. Note when guidance arose unforced. Not now. Rest. Leave that alone. And your obedience was easy. Note also lapses without judgment. Hurried. Tested. Argued. So that the next day you will return with humility, not with strategy. Once a week, read the brief lines and see the arc. That is your proof. That is your accountability. No spectacle, no speeches. A covenant kept in secret. Guard your motive. Never sit to get, never bargain, never test. Sit to yield, sit to be addressed. If action is given you from within, take it quietly. If none is given, take no action. Refuse to grant power to appearances. Let I govern. The very nothingness of the claim, once realized, precludes the necessity for any doing about it. Your part is secrecy, fidelity, and consent. Be still and know, I am God. And now the reassurance without which discipline becomes strain. You are not alone inside your own body. Presence is there ahead of you, as your safety, as your governor, as your life. I will never leave you nor forsake you. This is not to be recited, it will be heard within, as the temple learns the sound of its king. Practice in secret until the body recognizes presence as its governor, and then you will discover what I have promised. The temple will maintain itself from within. When the alarm would rise, the inner word will rise first. When the rush would seize you, the inner hand will steady you. When the claim would shout, its voice will find no audience. Be still and know I am God. Not as a slogan on your lips, but as the governor speaking in his temple, and the temple answering, Amen.